On today's show, we're discussing a potential new tool in the opioid crisis, a fentanyl vaccine that has entered human trials for the first time. This is the JAMA Medical News Podcast. I'm News Director Jennifer Abbasi. Associate Managing Editor Kate Schweitzer is here to talk about her story. Kate, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Jen.
So tell us about this investigational vaccine and why experts seem so optimistic.
Up until now, this kind of research has hit nothing but dead ends. Scientists have spent decades trying to develop vaccines against drugs like nicotine and cocaine, but those efforts have largely failed. And although overdose deaths involving synthetic opioids like fentanyl have dramatically declined in the past couple of years, fentanyl overdose remains the leading cause of death in the U.S. among people aged 18 to 44. It's an extraordinarily potent drug, up to 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. Even a tiny amount, the size of a few grains of sand, can be fatal. So it's very promising that a phase 1 and 2 clinical trial for a fentanyl vaccine has officially launched. If it proves safe and effective, it could become the first designed to proactively prevent fentanyl overdose and potentially support treatment for opioid use disorder.
Okay, so how does a vaccine against a drug like fentanyl even work? Explain this to us.
Right. So now our primary emergency tool is naloxone, or Narcan, which reverses an overdose after fentanyl has already entered the brain. This vaccine takes a different approach. It trains the immune system to recognize fentanyl before it ever reaches the brain. The challenge is that fentanyl is a small molecule that normally flies under the immune system's radar. To solve that problem, researchers attached a synthetic fentanyl fragment to a larger protein, one that's already used in licensed vaccines, along with an immune-boosting adjuvant. This combination is what prompts the body to produce anti-fentanyl antibodies. So if a vaccinated person is later exposed to fentanyl, those antibodies bind to the drug in the bloodstream. The resulting complex becomes too large to cross the blood-brain barrier, effectively trapping the fentanyl outside the brain. That person then wouldn't experience the euphoria associated with fentanyl use, and more importantly, they wouldn't experience the respiratory depression that causes fatal overdoses. When Dr. Colin Hale, the researcher who developed the vaccine, saw the results in rodents, he stopped to take a video to send to his colleagues. He knew they wouldn't believe it worked so well.
Okay, and now they're testing this in people. So what does that study look like?
It's a fairly unique trial design. Up to 56 healthy volunteers receive the vaccine, and once they develop a sufficient antibody response, they undergo a controlled fentanyl challenge in a highly monitored medical setting under the care of anesthesiologists. Investigators administer doses of medical-grade fentanyl to determine whether the vaccine can block fentanyl's respiratory effects. The trial should provide some of the first evidence of whether the vaccine works in humans, but it will remain to be seen whether antibody levels generated by the vaccine would be sufficient to protect against real-world overdoses, which are impossible to ethically test in clinical trials.
If the vaccine works, who would actually receive it?
Researchers see several potential populations, the most obvious being those receiving treatment for opioid use disorder, where the vaccine could serve as an additional recovery tool. But fentanyl presents a unique challenge because many overdoses occur in people who don't knowingly take the drug. Fentanyl is frequently mixed into other illicit substances, from ecstasy to counterfeit ADHD meds. Because of that, researchers are also thinking about outreach to young adults and college students to foster acceptance of the vaccine. There's also the potential for use among first responders and military personnel who may have an increased risk of accidental exposure to aerosolized fentanyl and related compounds.
Okay, so what unanswered questions remain about this investigational vaccine?
One concern is whether some individuals might simply take larger amounts of fentanyl in an attempt to overcome the vaccine's effects. That's something future studies will need to address. And some physicians have wondered whether the vaccine could complicate pain management. But researchers say the antibodies appear highly specific to fentanyl. So far, they haven't seen interference with other commonly used medications, including morphine, propofol, or treatments for opioid use disorder such as methadone.
So what's next?
The immediate goal is getting results from this first human trial, which are expected the final quarter of this year. If the vaccine appears safe and shows signs of efficacy, researchers would likely move into larger phase 3 studies.
All right. Thank you, Kate. If you'd like to learn more, we'll include a link to Kate's story in the show description. You can find all of our stories at JAMAmedicalnews.com. Thanks to Kate Schweitzer for joining me. I'm Jennifer Abbasi for JAMA Medical News. This episode was produced by Daniel Musisi at the JAMA Network. To follow this and other JAMA Network podcasts, please visit us online at JAMAnetworkaudio.com. Thanks for listening and join us again next week.
This content is protected by copyright by the American Medical Association with all rights reserved, including those for text and data mining, AI training, and similar technologies.